Hmm. Hi, my name's Michael, and I'm 19 years old. I became a cyber criminal for my father's sake. My dad raised me on his own. He was a computer science teacher, so since my childhood, I've been taught the magic of programming. At the same time, he wasn't a supporter of hackers, so he strictly forbade me from using my knowledge in this realm. Just like Uncle Ben and Spider Man, with great power comes great responsibility. But I was a little kid, so of course, I didn't even think about doing anything bad. The other way around, I really wanted to be like my father, so I just absorbed all his knowledge like a sponge. You know, by the age of 18, I had learned a lot. My father and I lived a consistent life. I went to college, hung out with friends, and played computer games from time to time. Dad went to work, and after that, sometimes he also played computer games with me. Everything was great. But suddenly, our peaceful life was over. My dad got diagnosed with cancer. Cancer is one of the most terrible diseases that I know of. Besides, we didn't have the money for treatment. And unfortunately, Dad's insurance didn't cover cancer treatment. Of course, we had some savings, but with such high prices for healthcare, it would only be enough for the doctor to say hello to my dad. I felt helpless. Even if we had the money, it wouldn't guarantee my dad's recovery. We had plenty of time, but the more time we spent looking for the money, the lower his chances for recovery were. Every single day we looked for help, went to charity funds, etc. I spread information about raising funds for treatment among friends and online. Thank God our efforts were not in vain, and people began to respond, and money actually started to come in. Of course, seeing the support helped us to believe in my dad's recovery. But unfortunately, this support was not enough. There were good days when people transferred us huge amounts, but the bad days were much more frequent. It took a month to collect barely a quarter of the cost of the treatment. We were under constant stress. Charities were silent. We only got help from people who cared. And the time went by. And then one day, Dad decided to take the risk. He said that he was tired of waiting for the moment when he would get worse, and that he needed to act. He said he had a plan. He took all of our savings and went God knows where. Need I say I was worried? Well, I was very worried, and unfortunately, reasonably so. Dad came back, but without any money at all. It turned out that he was convinced by some distant acquaintances that they knew the outcome of an upcoming football game. Like, everyone could have easily made a lot of money, and all he had to do was place a bet. Dad was afraid that he would not be able to collect the entire amount in time, so he gave in to that idea. And, long story short, these distant acquaintances found the perfect, desperate victim. Dad bet all of our savings and lost. It was such a shock. We had hope, and he took it all away. Of course, I was very angry, so I shouted at him, because if he had just talked to me, this would have never happened. But I couldn't be angry for too long because I had to fix the situation. The money from the funds was still coming in, but very slowly. Therefore, it was necessary to urgently change our plan. Like I said earlier, I was good at programming, but I didn't exactly have the concept of the original interesting program to blow up the market and bring us lots of money. Plus, as time went on and my dad wasn't getting any better, that's when I decided to become a hacker. After I read the special literature, I decided to hack the websites of small businesses so as not to get into big trouble and sell their customer bases, names, phone numbers, emails, etc. on the internet. And believe me, this information is worth a lot of money. Of course, this is exactly what my father despised, but I had all the necessary skills and motivation to do it. I do not think it's necessary to delve into the technical details, but I earned a lot. I know it's bad, but there was no other way. All of this was done to save my father. And you know what? I worked like this for a little less than a month, and after adding the money from the fundraising, we collected exactly what we needed. Finally, I took the cash out of my fake accounts and ran to Dad. I could only think about his recovery and nothing else. But I had no idea that he would be so against my way of making money, even in such an extreme situation. When he found out where I got the money, instead of thanking me, he started yelling at me. And at one point, he even called me a criminal. I didn't understand. Why? I had done this all for him, and this was his gratitude? The only reason why I had to stoop to hacking was because he lost all the money in that stupid bet. Long story short, after the word criminal, I snapped. I yelled at him, and he yelled at me. And at the end of our fight, when we were both at our boiling point, he said he'd rather die than use this money for treatment. Can you imagine? I was still angry, but I was thinking about how to get him to start treatment. In the end, I decided to talk to him in the morning when we both cooled off. But How should I put this? In the morning, both Dad and the money were gone. There was only a single note on the table. He explained everything in it. He asked me not to look for him. Dad wrote that he loved me, but it was painful for him to realize that I had started doing such bad things because of him. To make up for me hacking sites, he wanted to give all the money to the charity that helps children who are sick with cancer. At the same time, he did not want me to watch him die slowly, so he planned to keep a few thousand to live the rest of his life happily. I was reading this and my eyes bursted with tears. I couldn't believe my dad was selfish enough to do this. Shocked and having some stupid hope, I ran out of the house. Like maybe Dad hasn't gotten that far yet. But unfortunately, the street was empty. Yes, I was already of age. Yes, I had my father's apartment, but I was all alone. At first, it was very hard for me. And not just because I missed my father. He literally left me no money. To pay my bills, I started combining college with a programming job. I didn't agree with Dad on many things, of course, but one thing I learned for sure. Since he's willing to give his life to stop me from being a hacker, so be it. Programmers also make a good salary. A couple of months passed, and of course, it was very sad, but I continued to live. Because my father would have wanted it that way. College, work, friends. My busy schedule kept me distracted. One day, I was hanging out with friends, and for the first time in a long time, I felt calm. It was a cool feeling. Too bad it didn't last for long. Apparently, my dad likes to steal my peace of mind. And one day, he did come home. He was rumpled, bearded, and most importantly, his face showed that the disease was progressing. Of course, I was shocked, and I didn't know whether to be happy or angry or to start crying. I just started asking him what he had been doing this whole time, but as it turned out, he stuck strictly to his original plan, everything according to his note. After donating the money to the charity, he traveled around the country and did everything that he wanted, within reason. A couple of $1,000s wasn't much to go around, but he even had a list of things he had to do before he left for another world. Well, like I said, it was all in the note, with only one important but. As the disease continued to progress, he realized that he still wanted to live. He came back to me in a terrible state. And you know what he asked me to do? He asked me to go back to hacking to get more money and cure him. Apparently, the fear of death radically changes people's mindsets. I still haven't come up with the proper way to describe the emotions that I experienced at that moment. It was extreme anger mixed with extreme compassion. Why? Why didn't he take the money when I could offer it? So everything repeated itself. I'm a hacker again. Once more, I had some savings from working as a programmer, but healthcare is too expensive. Without good insurance in America, you're doomed. Obviously, now there was much less time left than last time. So now I was not only hacking the sites of small businesses, but I needed to hack a big one. The cooler the company, the more profit from its hacking. Of course, I didn't hack Apple or Microsoft. This is not a movie, but the company was big enough. I spent a few days preparing for the break-in. Very worried, but everything went well. But when it was time to make money on this hack, I stopped for a second and thought, what if I cure my dad with this money, but his agony passes, and the situation with him leaving repeats itself? After all, as it turned out, my dad is the most controversial person in the world. Long story short, filled with emotions, I told the companies I hacked that they've been hacked, of course, anonymously. Meanwhile, I started looking for legal ways to save my father. Without knowing it, I'd already found the way. This big company answered me quickly enough, and their answer stunned me. Instead of sending an angry letter, they said that they were grateful that I had found holes in their defense system. More than that, they even offered me to continue to do similar hacking, for money. That's how I found out about the white hats. These are the people who look for problems in company security systems and fix them. So, I became one of them. I earned money for my dad's treatment pretty quickly, and thank God, after a while, the cancer went into remission. Now I'm a pretty successful white hat, and my dad and I are finally enjoying life. That's my story. I mean, there's always a choice. The goal does not necessarily have to be achieved in a dirty way. And what about you? Have you ever had to do bad things for the health of your loved ones? Write about it in the comments and share this video with your friends.